Good afternoon. I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to the ESCP Business School webinar on networking, your professional success, one relationship at a time. My name is Tania Fernandez, and I'm the head of marketing and communication at the Madrid campus. I would like to present our speaker for today, Professor Sophie Vurpillot. She's an entrepreneur, executive coach, and mentor, headhunter. Sophie has been empowering thousands of conscious leaders from over 20 countries since 2012 to maximize their influence and impact on their teams, their organization, their environment, and the world. She's also an alumnus from our Master in Management program from 2005. Um, this time we also have the honor of having two of two other MIM alumnus participating in the event. We have Louisa Guedel. Louisa is a business development representative at AWS, Amazon Web Services, now based in Munich. She's passionate about the technology, previously worked at DocuSign, and she obtained a certificate in blockchain while she studied in Boston. Proud alumni of ESCP, where she pursued the option E track and made the most out of the different campuses. We also have the advantage of having Tommaso Vitello with us. He's 24 years old, worked and studied in, well, work and study experiences in France, UK, Italy, Spain. He has a bachelor's degree in business and management from Bocconi and the master in management with a specialization in option E, entrepreneurship, and project management from ESCP Business School. He's currently launching his own business in food industry and collaborating with other startups. Um, we encourage all of you to actually tell us in the chat room where you come from, your country, and what you expect from this webinar. That will help us a lot in the development and doing it a little bit more engaging. Also, we invite you all um, to actually ask questions at the end of the webinar and when you see an opportunity on the question part of the webinar. So thank you all, and I leave you with our presenters. Enjoy the webinar.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you so much for the introduction. Before anything, I would like to really invite you to indicate in the chat where you come from, maybe the city you're currently based in, and maybe your nationality and what you expect from this webinar, so we can help you and bring the most value possible to you. So please don't be shy and use the chat so we can help you the best way possible. So again, welcome, and I'm very thrilled to be here today, again as an alumni from the school, and also being able to share the experience that I gathered over the past 17 years now. And really one of the major takeaway at this stage that I've been learning around networking is that it all comes back to understanding, the main drivers of human behavior. And you will be very successful at networking if you understand how we work, basically, and what makes you act, what makes people act. So before we start, what we would like to do is to ask you to take a little survey and ask you about your perception of networking. So Tanya is going to be sharing with you a little survey. You should see that a poll is being open.
Yeah.
And we invite you to indicate, in your view, what is networking? Is it a time-consuming activity? Is it boring? Is it stressful? Is it critical to success, or is it exciting? And maybe it's a lot of those things, but what really comes first? And Tanya is gonna comment as answers come. Are we receiving some answers, Tanya?
Yeah, at the moment we have 33% of our attendees are saying that it's exciting, 31 say it is critical to success, and 31 that it's stressful. Now we have a 38% exciting. I think we're going to close the poll now, and I'll share it with all of you.
Okay. And don't forget to put in the chat what you expect from this webinar and where you come from. All right, so indeed, when we think of networking, I think most of the myth, and we would like to kill those myths today, actually, is that first, networking is not for everyone, and that if you happen to be an introvert, then basically you're going to suffer a lot in the process, or maybe you're not even going to be successful at it. So that's one of the myths that we're gonna kill today. Another one might be that it's just a very, very time consuming activity with very limited benefits. And the third one is that, when networking, people are just focused on their own interest and really, don't care much about the rest. So that may be some of the ideas that you have today about networking, although a lot of you think it's exciting. And in my view, what I've been learning over the past, again, 15 years or so, is that really networking, if you approach it correctly, is one of the foundations, the key foundations of professional success. And it is as important as knowing yourself or learning continuously or working on your personal brand. Because at the end of the day, what networking is really about, it's about building relationships. And your success can be derived uniquely from, it's really the people you meet and what you create together. And really networking is the key for that, and it's your stairway to success. I used to think that networking was this, it's you go to a random networking event with people coming from all kinds of horizons, and you have your responsibility is to provide a nice pitch in as little time as possible and to get as many, business cards as possible. And this is an exercise that I've been practicing a lot when in the US, especially in New York City. And noticing that this approach actually led to very, very little result. And I think that our guests also, yes,
Yeah,
have something
exactly.
to say
Uh,
on the subject.
Yeah, exactly. If I can give my 2 cents about the topic, I used to believe that networking was about that, was just participating to networking events and just exchanging business cards, etc. So every time that someone invited me to business events like this, I always felt very, very uncomfortable because I used to find it very, very unnatural, like as a situation. So also thanks to this kind of teachings and this kind of webinars, and also thanks to ESCP, I discovered that networking is something more. It's something related to our day-to-day activity, basically. To me, networking today is the ability to, first of all, define what are your passions, your interests, etc., and to be able to create some meaningful relationships about these interests and passions that you can have in common with people. And with reference to that, I'd like to bring on the table one example. I'm starting using a lot social networks to build my personal brand. I think some social networks like LinkedIn, for instance, are such powerful tools and instruments to build and to grow your network. So I have this example, for instance. I have always been very, very passionate about entrepreneurship and successful stories and biographies. So once I did an experiment, I just started creating some video pillows of the most successful Italian entrepreneurs in Italy. And I just started publishing them on my personal LinkedIn. So there was a very nice and good strategy to let my network on LinkedIn grow, because the result was very, very effective. In the end, every week when I published these video pillows, I received more than 20K visualizations on average and a lot of proposals of collaborations. So here I would say the key message is don't be shy to communicate what are your passions and what are your interests also on social networks like LinkedIn, that can be very, very powerful and can let you grow your network. So just my two cents about the topic.
Thank you, Tommaso. I think Louisa may also have some experience to share now on this kind of events where you go to, and again, you don't know much what to expect. Louisa, can you hear us?
Yeah, I think, yes, now I hear you again. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so my experience on that, perfect, now you hear me, I think. In general, going to those job conferences, I think it's for many people really stressful. And for me personally, it was always something where I felt it's not natural, it's not authentic, and it was too aggressive to me. That you go to places, you're pitching yourself and you're trying to give out CVs. And I think the one thing we have to change is having empathy for the people who are there. If you put yourself in their and if you manage to have a normal conversation about their role, what they are doing there, and really think the two things are really caring and being curious. And then what happened to me is I was on an event. I did not pitch myself, but had a normal conversation with a more human approach. And people reached back to me who were recruiters or working at the company and saying, if you ever apply, let us know, maybe we can help. And I think with a more human approach.
And I think we're losing you, Louisa. So I think what Louisa is saying is that, you know, changing the mindset from this, you know, you have to just, you know, if you start dehumanizing people, basically, if you just start of what is the benefit I can get, you know, or if you just focus on the process of having to exchange business cards and things like that, and if you lose sight, if you forget to be curious, if you lose sight of the person in front of you, that's basically where stress arises. And I think that's what happens to the 31% of you that indicate that they're stressful when they think of networking. What we've experienced is that if you change the focus towards curiosity and learning and meeting genuinely people, this stress just goes away. And in our view, really, and in my view specifically, this is what networking looks like. So it's a very, very different picture. To me, networking is about, again, meeting people while doing great things together. You have a picture at the top left of the screen, which was taken at ESCP precisely, where I was, you know, part of the jury of a startup competition. And this is unbelievable, you know, unbelievable, the people that you meet there. You know, the jury members that I meet who are share, you know, my passion obviously for entrepreneurship and for innovation. And you know, this is how you made fantastic and wonderful people like this. There was another picture taken to the right, which is in Chile. It was we were organizing an event about empowering wannabe entrepreneurs, and this is where I met a candidate for presidency in Chile, who is today one of my friends. And we met around those common values and those common passions. And I think I would have been very stressed if I had to meet this person just like that, you know, in a conference room and just come to him and pitch myself, you know. So again, think about it as an exciting opportunity, just meeting new people, really genuinely getting to know them and see what opportunities can arise from that. That is networking, really. And, you know, beyond doing all these great things together, basically, networking really, really happens in this kind of setup where you spend a lot of time one-on-one with somebody. This is, you know, having a coffee with somebody, having a lunch with someone, spending a solid hour just talking about what they do, learning about what they do, learning about their, you know, their current challenges, their current successes, what they're looking at, and what do they want to do next. And having a chance to say the same about your current project, you know, and this is truly, truly where the magic happens. I don't know if Louisa and Tommaso want to add to this. So I'm going to move on. And really, you know, to be successful at networking, what you need. Yes, Louisa?
Sorry, I think unfortunately there's a bit of a time leak when I'm saying something. Yeah. But I think I can add it to the ones that, yeah, I'll do it in the later one. I don't hear you now. I'll try to get the audio.
Yeah, we hear you actually, Louisa. We can hear you. So just try to go ahead. Yes, we can hear
I
you.
don't hear you, but I'll try. I'll try. So I think the one big philosophy I would share here is that you basically you never know what happens. You can never know what kind of relationship comes out of the connections you have. For me, there were maybe two stories very briefly. One was when I was babysitting already in high school. The person, like the dad of the kids, we were just always speaking. I was curious about what he's doing. And he became my first manager and now a lifelong mentor that I'm always in contact with. And similar, like I had beautiful coffee chats that ended up in friendships when I lived in Boston. And now two of them founded a startup and offered me a job in New York. So what I mean is like just seeing it as those friendships that anything can happen and you don't do it just with one goal, but because you are interested in getting to know the people.
Again, we're going with the same message, huh? Being authentic, being genuine, true curiosity to meet someone. Tommaso, is there anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, I would like to add the first time in reality when we met together, Sophie. I don't know if you remember.
I
I
surely
was in
do.
my second I was in my second year at ESCP of MIM, and I chose as a specialization option in entrepreneurship. So our goal was to create this startup from the scratch together with an international team, and we choose you, Sophie, as the mentor. And I remember, as it's yesterday, for instance. That we really worked hard, very hard on that presentation, on that startup. We really worked hard, very hard during days and nights all together, and we shared a lot of things together. So I also remember that at the end we had these two startup battles. So in the first battle we won a lot of prizes and awards, and in the last battle, the most important one, we didn't perform so well. But I still remember your words because I was really sad about that. And you said as it's not important the result, and it's not important the prizes and the awards that you are getting, but it's important the path that we have lived together and the relationships that we have built together. So to me, that was a very meaningful and important teaching from you and from that experience at the ESCP.
Thank you, Tommaso. I really believe in this, by the way, and yeah, I cherish those moments. It's true that we all put a lot of effort in refining this speech, and Tommaso especially that was he was pitching actually alone the project, and he put a lot of effort into this, and we it's true that we became friendly as we had late night calls, and we're talking about how to fine tune this presentation, add more storytelling into it, and we met back in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, and we're still in touch today. And
Yeah.
that friendship really like was born in those moments, and those moments of being tired and working tired, on this pitch continuously, and talking about other side subjects as well, and personal lives, and fears and hopes and expectations. So again, those one-on-one settings is really where you create the relationships, and you create those long-lasting relationships. And again, for networking, if you think about building your network, like everything in life, I believe it's gonna work better if you put some intention into it. And really, like across the board, the recommendation is that start, and I know it can be overwhelming, but start with finding what you're passionate about. What is your mission? And when you think your mission, think at least of a 3-year, 3 years from now, what is it that you want to do? Who is it that you want to be? Because, remember that a goal is nothing if it's not like, it's basically a dream with a deadline, no? Goals are derived from your dreams. Goals are derived from your mission, and the recommendation is really to start from that. Where is it that I want to be? What is it that I want to accomplish? What is it that I want to impact? You know, in 3 years from now, not 10 necessarily, because even companies don't plan anymore 10 years from now. You know, they used to do so, and then they went backwards. 5 years from, you know, 5 years from now, what are we gonna do? And now it's about 3 years because there's so much uncertainty that we're dealing with. But really, first, finding your mission. Again, what is the impact that you want to have? Who is it that you want to be? What kind of organization do you want to work for? And from there, you can formalize the goals. And especially when it comes to building relationships, who is it that I need to meet? What kind of people? What kind of positions do these people have? What kind of sectors do they work for? What kind of organizations are they currently working for? And then, you know, as you build your plan, to also have some kind of almost like a board, like a couple of people who hold you accountable to say, hey, you had this intention to meet this kind of people. How far are you with this plan? Who are you able to meet? Who are you not able to meet? What did you learn in the process? And just to make sure that you keep going and don't get discouraged. And there is a name actually for this action plan. It's called the Relationship Action Plan, and this is what it looks like. So again, you start with your, yes, Tommaso?
Yeah, no, just adding something to the slide before, and the importance
Yeah.
of defining a strategy when you want to
Yes.
network or when you want to obtain something. I just want to share, I strongly agree on the importance of defining a strategy, and I really would like also to underline the importance of defining a strategy that goes out of the box, so in the importance of thinking in an entrepreneurial way. And with reference to that, I would like to share with you a story. When I remember in my first year at MIM, I remember it was like this period, March or April, and I remember it was a very stressful period because, you know, in order to graduate, to get all the credits when we do the master in management, we need to collect at least 10 months of professional experience. So I remember it as a very stressful period where all my friends and colleagues were applying to hundreds of companies, and I was like at zero. I didn't even apply to any company. So I was very, very late. And in that moment, I said to myself, okay, I need to do something to let people and to let companies notice me. So I started thinking in a different way, and I said, okay, if all my friends are now applying for job positions posted by companies, why don't do the opposite? So let companies apply for having me in their company. So you can understand that was a very brave thought, but at the same time, I was mainly targeting startups or innovative companies or innovative and entrepreneurial consulting companies. So I said to myself, okay, let's try. So what I did was just write an article on LinkedIn where I told that I had opened this job position for having me in the company. So I wrote all my background, my experiences, etc. And then I wrote also what I was looking for in a company. And then I put the link to a Google form to let companies apply for having me. And the result was
How did that work? Yes. What was the outcome?
was very cool, was very effective because I got at least 6 or 7 applications by different companies, startups, or also some multinational consultancy. And also I remember the CEO of one of the fastest growing startup here in Italy brought me to congratulate, and he put me in contact with the responsible of human resources, and at the end I got an offer. So here the main message is it's important to have a strategy, to define a strategy, and it's important in my opinion, don't be afraid. So be brave and don't be afraid of using also this kind of brave techniques and out of the box techniques and strategies to be noticed by people around you.
Standing out is also one of the key elements of personal branding. And when you do it, I think what Tommaso was also, what you did was very, very smart, no? Because you were targeting disruptive companies, as you say, innovative companies. So being disruptive yourself sends that message. It prevents you from having to say, oh, by the way, I am creative, I am innovative, I am bold, because your actions prove that you are, which is 10 times stronger. So of course, if you apply to a very, very traditional sector, maybe that's not the strategy, the smarter strategy, right? So it's about understanding, yeah. But you did great because you really adapted to your audience, right? So again, that's part of the strategy. Like, who is my audience? And again, if you start doing a document like this, you will get more clarity. It was clear from the beginning for Tommaso. Tommaso is an entrepreneur. It's not that he wants to be, he is right now. And that's always been his intention. I mean, as far as I know, at least back in 2018 already. And knowing that, I suspect that in this sheet you would have had people like other tech entrepreneurs and people from the food industry, since this is the area that you're working on right now, and investors, right? And try to go as deep as you can, as specific as you can. The very names of the people that you want to meet. And for this, LinkedIn is powerful because you can conduct some research and find some people who meet the criteria, and then ask yourself, how can I reach them? Do we have people that we know in common? Is this person someone I can meet in my city, or would it be a phone call? Would it be, what is the right setup? And then, why do you actually care? What do they potentially bring to your project, your life? And also, most importantly, how can you contribute? So here you have the longer term, the 3-year, and then you have medium term, 1 year, and then you move like that, backwards towards short term, 3 months from now. But you always start from the 3 years from now, the bigger picture, to again be consistent and have a plan that makes sense and is effective. And I think one of the most important messages here is about generosity. You may be stressed if you think that networking is the exercise of just getting stuff from people and asking for favors. Gosh, I would be stressed if my day was about that, right? But if you change completely the way of approaching networking, and if instead of taking, you think about giving, I will tell you one thing. This is like karma. The more you give, the more you receive. And it's not about counting points. It's not like, okay, I gave this favor to that person, so he owes me or she owes me. It's not like this. It's a bigger picture, Some people will help you. You will help other people, and maybe there's some people that you will help and will help you back, but it hardly matters. But if your day is focused on helping other people, again, I can guarantee that you will just have more prospects and more opportunities, and that you will build very, very meaningful and very useful as well relationships. So I don't know if Louisa and Tommaso maybe want to add on this, because I know that we share this philosophy very much.
Yeah, exactly. I strongly agree with that. Working is the main gift to networking. Like in every moment, someone write me, like students write me for asking about my path or my education or my professional experiences. I'm always very happy to share with them all the info that I have, because this make me feel fulfilled and satisfied as a person. And I have the feeling that I'm having also an impact on society or on that person. Like also in every case, for instance, in which friends or business colleagues ask for links, etc. I always do it without expecting anything on return, because I'm sure that this will have an impact on society. This will have an impact on my person, on my personal satisfaction, and also on my self-esteem. And I'm also quite sure that maybe in the future this will return and this will come back also to me. And just to talk about an example, less than 2 months ago, when in Italy we were in the full period of the coronavirus, I said to myself that I had to do something for helping people in that moment. So also always using LinkedIn, I offered myself for giving mentor sessions for optimizing LinkedIn to people. So at the beginning, I said that I would have offered just 5 mentoring sessions, but at the end, 150 people wrote me, and at the end, in 2 weeks, I have been able to offer 50 mentoring sessions with people that I didn't know, and of course for free. And that was a very nice experience to me because it let me feel very, very useful and fulfilled and satisfied.
Mm, very nice. Very nice. And Louisa, do you have something that you want to share as well?
I absolutely agree. I think very similar. You also always have, I had those situations, you help some people out, other people ask then a friend, oh, how do you know Louisa? And you get very positive feedback, which, for example, contributed in my current job, that an interviewer asked one of the guys in the team, why are you connected to Louisa on LinkedIn? And he was like, oh, let me check. Ah, yeah, she helped me in the past. And that's something, even small things, it is a virtuous positive cycle that comes back. And I think also, for example, that we are here together. In a way, Sophie helped us, and you were mentoring us, co-creating with us our entrepreneurial projects. And out of that, we evolved having this friendship, and you gain also meaningful relationships. So I think everything comes back in different kind of rewards, and it is a philosophy that makes happy as well.
It's true. It's true. Thank you, Louisa. So, helping others has many different ways. Actually, you have many ways of doing it. It can be just reacting to someone's posting on LinkedIn. Somebody's posting an article, or they're sharing about a conference that they went to. And if you do so, ideally you don't just like it, but try to go a little bit beyond and write something. Write something meaningful to that person. It can be to introduce someone to someone else, for example, to help them get more successful. It can be writing a recommendation or a referral as well, which on this, follow your ethics and make sure that you know the quality of the work of the person that you recommend. Always, it's important to be authentic and to be truthful in this exercise. It's a very helpful way of contributing. You can also decide to answer surveys when people are, students and professionals are trying to get more insights into a specific market, for example. So those are ways of helping out. And I think, Tanya, you're saying that we have some comments on the chat, no? Because if that's so, maybe we can take a minute.
Maybe I can address what I just read on the chat. I think it's absolutely right that it is important the comment says to challenge yourself, but not to force yourself in a networking situation. And yeah, I cannot agree more. I think one part where I had difficulties with that when I lived in the US, culturally, there are often differences, and I don't want to stereotype here, but there are differences. And to me, in the beginning, that, for example, felt aggressive. I had the impression it's like a speed dating contest where people want to give out business cards very quickly and know your name to add you on LinkedIn. And I think I really reflected on it, and I think there are possibilities in networking, like you said, if you do it in a genuine way. And that's then the beautiful part. And you have to find your authentic way of doing it. Otherwise, it can also not be as successful and rewarding. And then probably it is the part what we saw in the poll when it becomes stressful if you don't stick to the way you would normally speak to people.
And we're intuitive animals, no? And if somebody is not truthful, if they're not authentic, you just feel it. And the natural reaction is just to move away from that person. So I think, you know, the big message here, we all agree, is being genuine and being authentic, because that's how you attract people. And, you know, basically, so it's about generosity and networking. Again, for those who believe that this is a stressful exercise, what really helps is also to think that networking is not about hunting or being hunted. It's not that somebody is more desirable than the other one. Really, networking is about farming. So this is about cultivating and nourishing those long-lasting relationships. And I really like this image, and I really like to think that, again, those are plants, and you need to water them, you need to take care of those relationships, and you need to take care of them over time, you know. So it's not a once in a year, hey, you know, kind of thing, but try to interact as much as you can. And there's so many tools that allow you to do this, you know, social media. We are very informed, you know, about what's happening in the careers and in the lives of people in our network. So to stay somehow involved in what happens to them, you know, yeah, on a regular basis, and to from time to time just say hi and genuinely ask news and try to understand what they're going through. And I really like this equation that really explains what is at the root of trust, you know. And basically, we trust people when we believe that not only that they're credible, but also that they're very reliable, you know, and that means that if they say something, they will actually do it. Now that inspires trust. And also, we tend to trust people that we are more intimate with. You know, the more we know someone, the more we tend to trust them. So that means we know a little bit about some indications of their personal life. Where do they live? How do they live? What are their interests? What are their passions? What are their values? And you know what really drives people away from trusting someone is when we feel that someone is just focused on their self-interest. So again, it always goes back to this generosity. If you just go out there and you just help somebody with any of those means that we discuss and so many other opportunities that you have to help them, then of course this is a very effective way also of building this trust. And basically networking, there's a lot about, you know, first impression. It's again about building relationships. So, you know, there's this book that is very interesting of how to make friends and influence people, and it talks a lot about networking. And basically we give you here the overview of the 6 ways to make people like you, you know, and enjoy your presence. So there's a lot of emphasis, of course, on first impressions, you know, and first impressions, as was, you know, commented on the chat, it's about being authentic, it's about being your real you, because if you try to be another person, if you try to just impress and you know, it just, you know, people see it, and people will see through it. It's about being genuine, it's about being authentic, it's about really this desire to learn about the other person and to not fake it, but to really establish those real connections. There's a lot about listening, you know. When you first meet someone, the recommendation is actually to start asking about themselves and not to just, you know, try with your own pitch. There's multiple advantages to it. So first of all, if the other person starts with presenting themselves, that takes away the stress on their side. And when you come to introducing yourself, they're going to be more likely to listen to what you say. So they will actually be more receptive. And the other advantage is that if they start talking, then you start learning about them. And then of course you have the keys to, you know, drive it towards a very interesting conversation where you learn more, and it brings it to a different, you know, terrain really. And really talk about what they want. You know, if you start just talking about the internship, the job that you're looking for, the investor that you're looking for, that's not going to interest anyone, unfortunately. And again, this approach is really that you should always focus on you listening first and giving first, and that the results are going to, you know, follow through. and to give sincere appreciation when you talk to people, you know. So again, be genuine, be authentic. But if you think that they're saying something very interesting, or if you believe that they have a new approach to something, then, you know, just express it, you know. And the same when you read an article that someone read and you learn something, then just, you know, just say it. And the first key to making people, you know, feel valued is very simple. It's actually to know their name and to call people by their names. And maybe a little challenge for you right now is to ask yourself, really, how many people do you know by name? It's interesting. We're going to leave you a few seconds to think about it. Not just by face, by name. And this issue is so important. We have a few examples here of politicians and historical characters. There's Napoleon III on the left. He would give so much importance to this exercise of learning people's names that he developed a technique. And every time he would meet someone, he would make the conscious effort to repeat the name of this person 3 times. And if this is a complicated name, let's say somebody who comes from a different origin, you've never heard this first name before, then maybe you ask them to spell it, so it actually stays in your mind. And he would even go through the bother of writing the name on a piece of paper that he would then throw away, just to really, you know, print it in his head, basically. And someone like Roosevelt also was very famous for really having this caring approach, knowing everybody's name up to the technician who would fix his car, you know. And again, this is a very, very effective way of getting closer and to people and starting to build relationships. It's really the very, very beginning. And your network, really, if you think about it, you can picture your network as being, you know, made of those concentric circles of, you know, people that you know less to people that you know more and who are you consider to be intimate with. And really your goal with networking is to grow this, you know, this circle at the center that is called your meaningful network, which is made of those people that you feel intimate with, where you know, share values, where you share potentially passions and interests, you know. But again, those are people that you're intimate with. So I keep hearing, you know, especially among young people, that, you know, oh no, I don't want to work with my friends, you know, there's my work and there's my friends, you know, my friendships and my personal life. And I really believe it's a huge mistake, because, you know, from the moment you enjoy somebody's company, from the moment you trust them, from the moment you have so much in common, then actually there's a good sign that you will do great things together, you know. So you have all the ingredients for making a great team. So it's really food for thought here, but really what you want to grow is this meaningful network. So, and you know, maybe to give you a little bit more like concrete examples, because we talked a lot about how to help people, how to approach people, how to be authentic, how to personalize things a lot, you know. So I share with you here a few examples. I met with this person. He's from Mexico, and we met at the TEDx event. And you know, he was doing a speech. He's a conscious leader. So this person, you know, he built actually a franchise of restaurants in Mexico that is quite famous. I don't know if we have people from Mexico, but they would probably know it. And yeah, very, very focused on training continuously his people and taking great care of his people. And I noticed when he was doing his speech that, of course, we have a lot of values in common. You know, those are my own beliefs. And as a leader, this is what somebody's commenting that they like it a lot. Yes. Well, you would like it even more if you knew this guy. This Carlos Roberts, he's amazing, really, truly amazing. And I sent him a quick note because we talked briefly after his speech. I told him that I liked his speech very much. And then I sent him a quick note to say, hey, I think we have a lot in common, and I hope we can stay in touch, you know, something very casual like this. And that this is the message that he sent me, you know, and it was very caring. For those who don't understand Spanish, he says, you know, me too, I've always, you know, I really wanted to stay in touch, and please add my contact information, etc., etc. He sent me a Christmas card, and now we're still talking together. And you know, I'm building a network right now of conscious leaders, and he's going to be part of it. So we're going to do things together. Another example is from the very Louisa who is on this call now. Louisa approached me on LinkedIn after, you know, all the project work that we've been together and the mentoring experience, and after gaining the prizes that she highly deserved. And Louisa sent me this very kind note. And if you read about her message, it's extremely personal. And I don't know if you remember when we talked about making the other person feel valued. And you know, what she says is very, you know, she wants me to feel valued. Obviously, you know, she takes this very personal approach, and it sounds very authentic and very genuine. And the consequence, I think it led obviously to this call today and other things. And I remember writing a recommendation on her LinkedIn, and you know, a friendship that potentially is going to lead to other collaborations in the future, and I certainly hope so. So again, very personalized, very authentic. Yes, Louisa?
It's funny. At the time, if I knew we would see that at some point somewhere, I would have thought even more. No, but it's beautiful to see it, and that you also felt that way, that it's then a bit effort. I think for me, it's also if you really care about what a person shared in a presentation, take the time for yourself and the person to just tell people if you appreciated something they shared with you. You make them happy, and you for yourself, you reflect on what you learned again. And yeah, the note is quite personal. I just read it again as well. And it was also, I was inspired by the fact Sophie is doing her own business. She was mentoring us, like doing so much at ESCP and being a mom. And for me, at the time there and everything, the time we spent together, I felt like sharing that. And I think we should sometimes feel like you can tell people also something that seems a bit more personal, because it will make them happy too, and they appreciate it. And yeah, I think that's something, if you can take a minute to write a personal message because you care about the person, like take that minute.
It makes a huge difference. And that message really touched me, and I remember this message still to this date, you know. And another piece of advice, you know, when you go to some events and you meet new people and you don't really know what to talk about, because obviously there's no common ground just yet, right? You just met them. It's about, you know, again, finding ways to spice up a little bit the conversations, right? Because you know, what happens on the left is what typically happens, you know. And you know, it's nice, yeah, it's so nice, and then you know, you're kind of stuck in the conversation. Where if you apply, you know, those recommendations of showing curiosity and asking questions, you know, the conversation just takes another turn completely, you know. And it's actually amazing, because what happens if you start asking those questions and you see that, you know, you call people by their names also, you ask themselves the question, you really try to understand what they do and maybe even why they do what they do, you know. And really what you get in that process is not only to know someone, but also potentially to learn about an industry, about a specific role, and really getting to know this person. And imagine, you know, when you look at those two conversations from the left or, you know, to the right, when you start making, you know, asking those questions to the right, and you really try to understand what somebody specifically does at their job, you know, who is it that they serve, what kind of value do they bring, what in the first place drove them towards the job that they're doing today, what are the main changes affecting, you know, their sector, then you will get so much out of this. And so you will grow as a person, but also the second time you meet this person, obviously you will have created a lot of, you know, common ground for you to discuss. And you'll be able to say, you know, things like, oh, I remember from our conversation that you're working in this and that. You told me last time that this and that. How has it evolved, etc., etc. So you will have a very natural opportunity to just get back to these people and have another yet fascinating conversation. And people remember fascinating conversations, you know. because they're not the rule. Another thing, we discussed a lot about generosity and maybe writing introductions. And what I wanted to share with you is that, first of all, there is a little rule here that, when you introduce someone to someone else, well, you should first always ask the person that would, give the favor, basically, of connecting with someone. Ask them if they're okay with that. And I'm giving you here, and maybe you can take a picture of it. This is a template that you can use to ask someone if they're okay for you to introduce them to someone else that you want to help. Because otherwise, what can happen is that you write to somebody who is already very overwhelmed and, already managing hundreds of projects at the same time, and you're just asking for more from them at a time where they're not, willing to give. And it will just make them feel terrible, and it will be extremely counterproductive. So always have this courtesy to ask them if they're okay with that. And usually the answer is going to be very positive. I've never seen somebody say no. And finally, a couple of books that, I really recommend you to read on the subject. And, in my experience, those are the two most interesting ones. How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's an older book, but again, it really refers more to how we are, wired, I would say, as, again, human beings in general, and what makes us want to do things, what makes us want to connect with somebody. And it's a very, very, very practical book and extremely valuable. And another one, it's called Never Eat Alone. And this one talks more about the strategy. It talks more about how do you approach a networking strategy. It talks about the relationship action plan that we already touched on today, how to approach people concretely, and also a fascinating book. And really, the philosophy here is that, just put yourself out there and just, get started and start talking to people, because you don't have much to lose. The worst thing that can really happen is that nothing happens, precisely. People forget very quickly. So, you will not just burn, bridges or anything just because you contact somebody and they don't want to say yes to your request, and again, if you have this philosophy of bringing value also from the beginning instead of asking for favors, then you will see that's going to be very, very fruitful and productive, and the results are going to be completely different. And the best case scenario is that it opens an amazing door for you. It's usually a longer term strategy, but the more you do it, the more you see the benefits and the more you see the changes in your life. And this is a fascinating journey, really. So that's what we're inviting you to do, basically. And we will open just in a minute to see if you have maybe some reactions or some questions that you can address to the three of us. And you can ask your questions or reactions in the chat. I don't know if Tanya, do we have any question?
At the moment, we actually have a tip from Claudia Russo. And she's telling us that when you write a follow-up message, you have to make sure to write where, how you met, anything,
Yes.
anything specific mentioned during your conversation. It might be evident in the moment, but a year from the moment, you might have forgotten who exactly that person was. So it's great to do a reminder. So that's a tip that she's actually sending us on the question box. So we encourage everyone to actually send us your comments or ask more questions through the question box.
Very good tip. Yes, when you follow up with someone, so first do it quickly. Usually the day after is good. So it's still fresh on their mind, and tell them, we talked about this and that, and you told me that this and that, and you do it on LinkedIn, so they also have your picture, and this way it's clear in their mind. And as you said, Claudia, even if they just find this message a few months later by chance, they will still remember. So again, having a memorable conversation helps, of course, and asking those questions and showing curiosity. Do we have any other question or comments? Maybe for those people who believe that networking is stressful, Did anything change, you know, with what we said? Do you still consider it's stressful and brings anxiety, or are you starting to see a little bit joy in this process of getting to know great people?
Maybe also for the person who wrote, I think it is important to challenge yourself. How have you challenged yourself in the past? If you have any thoughts on that, you can also share it with us.
So how do you challenge yourself in a networking situation? Yes. I think it's about maybe overcoming, no, being shy, asking questions, going to someone, you see a fantastic speech and you go to the person who delivered the speech. That takes guts, you know. So that's challenging yourself, that's being brave. Yes, Tanya?
We have a question from Julianne Cherith. She's thanking you for the webinar, and he's asking, like, how would you suggest making an initial link to someone that doesn't seem to have something in common with you, especially over LinkedIn?
Okay, my first question is, why do you want to meet this person in the first place if you don't seem to have anything in common? Because really you want to be picky here, and you want to meet people that you really want to meet, you understand, like you and sharing some interests or some values for me is fundamental. And I assume that maybe you at least share some interest for a specific sector, for example. If you can maybe build on this comment for Julien. That was Julien, no? His name. Yeah. Think about the context, really. Who is it that you want to meet? Think maybe in terms of interest. If you feel like you don't, as human beings, you don't have much in common, then again, what brings you together in terms of maybe the company that this person works for or the industry? But really, the point is, do you want to work with or for somebody who has nothing in common with you? Because to me, that's a recipe for disaster. That's not exactly the setup for being a great team, you know? And to also feel like you have this opportunity to choose the people that you want to approach, you know? You can be picky, you can be strategic. And the more you do, the more you will put intention in building this meaningful network of people you want to become intimate with.
I think one question might be that sometimes you actually have to network with someone um, due to your work or where you want to act or the path that you want to follow. So at the beginning, they may not have anything in common, or it may seem to not have anything in common.
Mm,
So what will be a suggestion from you to actually make that first approach
yeah.
if it's something that will be valuable in the future for both of us?
Mm. Again, the approach is curiosity. So people love talking about themselves. So first of all, that's something that you need to know. So if you ask this person to tell them more, like if you tell them, what, listen, I'm really curious about understanding the mission of this kind of role in the industry, because this is the role that they currently play, and you ask them if they could grant you a 15-minute phone conversation, for example, it's a very, very hard request to say no to, really. I receive those requests very frequently, and I always say yes to those, really. And another way of framing this is maybe if you have some questions, if you would love to get his or her insights about the future of the industry, or just understanding the reality, you know, today is enough usually, you know. Is enough. And what you can do also before approaching someone, look at what they post on LinkedIn, start reacting to it so they start getting familiar with your name. And when you approach them, you can tell them, I have read, you know, your past couple of posts, and I really enjoyed the article that you wrote about this and that. I'd love to, you know, I'd love to talk with you during a short fun conversation. Yes, usually the answer is going to be yes. You will be surprised.
Perfect. We have two last questions, and I think after those, we have to close the webinar because of the time. But I'm going to ask the first question that was posed by Juliana. Just to clarify, it says, I assume most people contacting professionals on LinkedIn will be interested in the same sector or company. How can you distinguish yourself from others when initially contacting them? After
Yeah.
you answer that, I'll ask the other one. That's okay.
Again, if instead of asking for a job, you start offering something, or if instead of asking for a job, you show again the curiosity to meet them for who they are as persons, because 90% of your peers are just going to approach them to ask for something, to ask for a favor, ask for a job, ask for an internship.
Okay, that's good. And we have another really interesting question by Claudia Russo. And she's asking, what do you think it's a good way to end a conversation in order to go meet someone else? I think that's really interesting.
I see what you mean. Yes. If you're at an event with a lot of people and there's this awkward moment, yeah, that Tommaso might have the answer because he's laughing. What is the Italian way of managing this very delicate situation, Tommaso?
The lunch is ready.
Yeah, I think it's just to say, hey, that was really great to meet you. I hope we can talk again. How about coffee next week? And, or if it's digital, how about, I'd love to have a deeper conversation. Do you think we could meet next week over Skype or Zoom, whatever is it that you use, just to maybe agree on how to follow up? And it's okay, really. Tanya, we cannot hear you. I don't know if you're on mute, maybe. Yes.
Sorry.
No
Sorry.
problem.
I think that's great. That, that's a great tip, and I think that's something, that's a situation that most of us actually face at sometimes, and you really never know how to react. So thank you for that. Well, I think we ran out of time. So I don't know if you guys have any last comment just to close everything up, and then I'll say thank you and close the event. Yeah. Well, then
So I think, yeah, I think we can close up, but everything was about a lot of the points about the authenticity, staying yourself, no matter if we're introverts, extroverts, it is about being genuine. And if you really care and then you're curious, then you never know what happens.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to thank you, Sophie and ESCP, for hosting this webinar and for hosting us today. I hope this has been useful for all the people who were online. And yeah, that's it. If you have any other question or doubt, etc., feel free to reach us on LinkedIn or everywhere.
Yes, absolutely. Feel free to reach out.
exactly.
We will answer.
Well, thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
A good exercise. Thank you. Thank you very much, Tanya, Louisa, Tommaso, and everybody in the audience. Thank you for your questions and for your participation.
Yeah. Thank you, Sophie, for this great webinar, and thank you, Louisa and Tommaso, for being with us today. This wouldn't have been the same without you guys. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone that attended the webinar, and we hope to see you in the future events that we have planned for the next few months. You can check it out in our webpage at escp.eu. So hope to see you all real soon, and thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.